Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the StuG III Ausf. It's the StuG III. It's a tier 5 German tank destroyer. It's located on the northeast spawn of Highway, and this one is under the command of Clean Sweeper Marksman. Now he's armed with a 75mm gun, capable of doing 135 alpha and penetrating 150mm of armour with standard ammo, and with the premium rounds he can go through 194mm with APCR. Now for some reason we're not getting sound from the vehicle, but we're hearing the vehicles are other vehicles in the game, which is kind of odd. But anyway, I'm actually running this game on no mods at the moment to see if we can actually hear the vehicle, but it's just not coming through. Okay. In the meantime, we're seeing a DSPZ and a Covenanter moving into the field to try and spot the enemy. Nobody in sight yet. Now the enemy is just outside our range because they'll be a little further north than the Covenanter and the DSPZ. I don't think they can see our guys at the moment. Oh, the enemy has popped up, and there he is. He's actually in the field. We're just too far south to actually spot him. It's an AMX ELC, and of course he does have good camo, but he's actually now pulling back. You can definitely hear the engines of the other tanks, just not hearing the engine for this StuG III. I'm trying a few blind shots just in case there might be an enemy there. In a game I did recently for Clean Sweeper Marksman, actually under his new name Cursed by Design, I actually mentioned that he fired a lot of blind shots on Prokhorovka, but he actually pointed out that he made, on a previous game, he actually made more hit points by aiming blind at the bushes, because it turned out that he did about 2,000 hit points of damage by just aiming at the bushes, because he knew the enemy tanks had to be round about there, and it turned out they were. And so he's got into the idea that if he does actually get on the Prokhorovka map, he aims for the most likely spaces and puts a few blind shots in there, and sometimes he picks up hits on the enemy. Well, he's just testing out where the enemy light tanks might be. They've got an AMX ELC up there. No, that didn't hit anything. There's an M10 RBFM up there as well, but we just outside range at the moment. Well, the Sturmgeschütz, it was the brainchild of General Erich von Manstein. He actually wrote to General Beck in 1935 and suggested that they needed an assault artillery that would actually go alongside the troops, the infantry, and deal with any gun emplacements or any hardened positions such as bunkers. And it was actually quite a good idea, but when they actually designed and based the vehicle off the hull of a Panzer III, the Panzer III, Mark III, neither the Panzer Corps or the infantry actually wanted it. They both rejected the vehicle as a self-propelled gun, so the people who ended up actually using it in the end were the artillery corps, because they actually willingly accepted it as mobile artillery, so that's why the StuG drivers and the StuG crews were actually so effective, because they were very well trained artillerymen who obviously made the best use of the vehicle they were given. And oh, he's got that M10 now. Nice shot right into the engine bay, and he gets taken out with the next hit. So he picked up critical damage there. Now they're 3 down on the enemy at the moment, which is not so good. But everything to still play for. Well, they actually manufactured 9,346 StuGs during the war, And these StuGs actually destroyed 20,000 enemy vehicles between them. A lot of them were killed in the Soviet Union, where of course this tank was very effective against the T-34 and the other Russian tanks rather that it came across. So it was very effective, and it was also fairly cheap as well compared to the price of other turrets and other tank turrets rather, or turreted tanks. That's better. It was actually fairly cheap to build. Of course, it didn't require a turret, and it was just a thick metal casement, which meant that you could just weld it over, and so they made a lot of them, and they actually did have a good effect. Now, this moment, that T1 Heavy is getting in the way. We can't get decent shots. We probably need to reposition, otherwise we're going to hit our own teammate. Yeah, that enemy's in the way. Can we get the P-43? No, because the T1 is blocking our shot. We tried a blind one there. You can just see the icon of the P-43 going through. Yeah, it's not a good position that. When you've got a teammate who's actually blocking your shot like that, holding a corner, it's better to just relocate and go somewhere else. Okay, so we're still 3 tanks down on the enemy, and we're about to lose another one because I think that Wolverine is under fire and pulling back. The enemy has the town. In fact, they have more than half the map because they're up to the bridge point, or the level of the bridge. Wolverine hasn't gone yet, but we don't really want to go any further forward, because if we do, the enemy might switch attention from the Wolverine to us, although the Wolverine doesn't have very good armour. And the Sturmgeschütz does. It's got 18mm at the front of the vehicle, 30 on the sides, 50 on the rear. And of course there's no turret to worry about at all. And we just lost the M41 HMC, taken out by their Valiant. Nice, got a shot into the VK3001H, and again, it's an accurate 75mm gun. Nice, good shots. Got one into the track, the Excelsior, but he's blocking the shot we had previously on the VK. So the VK's got away with that one now. He's unsighted, so we're just pumping rounds into the side of the Excelsior. Now, he has got enough pen to penetrate the front of an Excelsior. And he goes to the turret of the Excelsior this time, but you can see there's 3 enemy tanks closing in. Pumps one through the turret of the GSPZ. And again, he's racking up the damage. He's up to 1,200 so far. The Excelsior's in sight, but he's pulled back behind the wreck. We're 5 down on the enemy. There's only 5 left on our team as well. So the enemy have done rather well, but you can see the Clean Sweeper Marksman's collected a huge number of hit points. Oh, that was just in front of the turret. We've lost the Wolverine, so we're the next one in line, and the Valiant's got to be the big problem. Pumps one through the front, can kill the DS. Oh, somebody else got there before us. It's the T1 Heavy. And now we're starting to take fire from that VK, who's obviously trying to get his own back. And we've lost another tank. We lost the T1 Heavy this time. Obviously being shot through the side of the vehicle. We've got 2 coming up together. Pumps one into the Strib. Can easily take down the Strib. Oh, took a hit. But the Strib's gone. Now going for the Excelsior. And he's gone. So that's the first kill. Oh, took a round from the Valiant. There's only 2 left on our team now. In fact, there's now only 1 left. It's the Griller. He's out in the field. He retreated to the field to try and get away from the enemy tanks as they came on in. And I don't think this game's going to last very much longer now. Sorry, we're not covering the Gorilla at the moment, but we can see that he's making his way along the river, headed south, trying to get away from the other players on the enemy team. He's going to come across the T67 very shortly, and that will probably be his end. Well, rather than going after the Gorilla, it looks like the enemy wants to cap out. I think the Gorilla's decided he's gone far enough that he can actually turn around now and fire back at his own cap. Not seeing any shells coming in. This is before Wargaming did the Arty mob, so or nerf I should say. So we should be seeing the tracers coming in. Well, there's a shell coming in. We didn't see the tracer, but we certainly saw the explosion. And there's now 2 in the cap, so it looks like they're ignoring the Gorilla and just going to end the game here and there. And that's it. It's all over. Here's the end of battle stats, and despite that game being a defeat, Clean Sweeper Marksman managed to get his first ace tanker in the StuG III Ausf. Yes, he got the scrolls underneath, and you only get that the first time. He also managed to get a 5 effect for doing more damage than the hit points of his own vehicle, a bruise the middle for getting at least 5 critical hits, in fact he got 7, and he got a high caliber for dealing the most damage in that game overall. His win rate in the battle was 4,552. Despite the loss, he still did play rather well. Let's have a look at team score. Well, there you go. Highest damage was 1,804. The highest on the enemy team was their T67, who managed 1,480. And the third highest damage went to their M10 RBFM with 1,064. When it came to kills, it was actually the Valiant on the enemy team did the best with 4 kills. 3 kills went to their M10 RBFM, 2 kills to the T67 and the Panzer IV Ausf H, as well as the T67 on Clean Sweeper's game, but he only got the 1 kill. When it came to base XP though, it's the Valiant who did the best with 790, the M10 RBFM 691, and 679 went to the T67, with Clean Sweeper Marksman getting 547, which actually put him in 5th place on base XP. He fired 23 rounds, got 15 direct hits on the enemy and 14 penetrations, and damage of 1,804 hit points, of which 1,073 were at more than 300 meters. I think it was just too many tanks for him to take on all at the same time as they were approaching the cap. It might have been better for him to fall back, or at least fall back towards the middle of the map and then try and make his way around the enemy, so that even while they were capping, he started to hitting them from a different angle. He received 5 hits from the enemy, 4 of them penetrated, 1 non-penetration, and 150 hit points of damage blocked by armor. He spotted 1 enemy vehicle, damaged 5 of the enemy, killed 1, and did 1,044 hit points of damage assistance. He earned 37,323 credits from the game, 4,221 for courageous resistance, that's because he got a battle hero medal in a losing or drawn game, 41,544 credits altogether, and after repair, ammunition, resupply and consumables still took away a profit of 13,698 credits. He got 30 bonds for that battle, as well as 820 XP, as well as 468 for courageous resistance, took away 1,288 experience points altogether. So the StuG III Ausf is actually quite a decent tank destroyer at this tier. You can have it in one version, which is the stock version, or the one without the muzzle brake, which is the Top Gun, and he had the Top Gun. You can see at the front of the vehicle it's fairly strong armor, 18mm on basically the lower plate is almost invisible because there's only a very, very tiny bit of lower plate there. It's basically just that big slab of armor at the front, which comes out at 80 millimeters actual, but is 90 with the angling. It's very, very slight angling, but all the front of the vehicle is 80 millimeters here. The weak spot is that angled armor there, just underneath the driver's ports, and you can see it's only 25 millimeters of armor, but it's actually very well angled, as you can see here, and therefore it's almost impossible to hit. It's much easier to impact the armor on the actual hull, which is 30 millimeters there, 30 millimeters there, and actually comes out at 45 millimeters. So most tier 3 to tier 4 tanks should be able to pen the upper parts of a StuG. So that's where you aim on a StuG, the upper parts. Don't try to go for the mantlet. It's very tough armor around the mantlet itself. Best to aim just for these weak spots either side, or the driver's port, which you can easily pump through because that's a 0 millimeters basically through the port. The cupola's fairly weak as well, 30 millimeters. The sides there, 30 millimeters as well, slab sided, so easy to pen, and the rear of the vehicle is only 16 millimeters, so you'll definitely get through the rear of one of these, which is why most people try to either track the thing and then get behind it and just pump rounds into its rear, because you'll easily get through. Or if they're facing the thing from the front, you just try to aim for these areas, these flattish areas here, where you should be able to punch through the armor. So that's the StuG III armor. Let's have a look at the modules. Well, it's a 4-man crew. You've got the driver up front on the right hand side, right next door to the transmission, which actually goes in front of him as well. So any round that punches through that 80mm plate, which is unlikely to, is then just going to hit the transmission rather than the actual driver, more than likely. There is an ammo rack on the other side of the vehicle, but remember, this is all 80mm armor, so you're unlikely to get that ammo rack. But you might get this one, which is the ready rack, which is on the side of the vehicle, on the left-hand side as you're looking at it. If we look at the driver, just behind the driver is the gunner, and he's got the radio right next door to him, and just behind him is the tank commander with that cupola. So you've got 3 crew lined up in a row. If you can get through that driver's port, you might take out the tank commander and the gunner in the same moment. The loader is on the left hand side of the vehicle as we're looking at it. You can see that ready rack on that side. That's the one to aim for if you can, because it's only 30 millimeters of armor. You should be able to get through that. There is a deep store of armor right in the center of the vehicle, so you should be able to get to that ammo rack as well. It's just in front of the engine. I think most players end up actually shooting the engine rather than the ammo rack in the back there. And the fuel is actually in one tank on the right hand side of the engine there, you can see, with the engine on the other side. So if you do aim in through the right hand side of the vehicle, you'll get the engine. If you aim in through the left hand side, you're going to get the fuel tank. So it's kind of to remember that if you're actually looking at a StuG and he's looking at you, if you want to knock the engine out, you aim on the right hand side of the vehicle. And of course, if you want to make the thing go bang or set it on fire, you aim at the fuel tank on the other side or the ammo rack. That's what to aim for. You can possibly aim through that ammo rack, the one next door to the driver, because that is on the right hand side. But I wouldn't aim at it from the front. I'd aim at it from the side, or if you can, just aim through the side of the vehicle there. You should be able to punch through and make it go bang that way. So congratulations to Clean Sweeper Marksman for getting his first ace tanker in the StuG III. Pity it was a defeat. I think that the thing there is, if the enemy is coming on like that, they're getting closer and closer and closer, then to relocate and find a new position to fire from, because obviously it was getting unhealthy to be there, especially because the bushes were so close to you. You weren't actually invisible to the enemy. They could see you. Every time you fired, they were spotting you through the bush. So it was very difficult to avoid shots from the enemy. But he still got an ace tanker and a high caliber outfit. If you enjoyed that replay, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And remember, we've got another replay coming up very shortly, again from Clean Sweeper Marksman, so do stick around and we'll have another good one. Thanks for watching.